Hey guys, what is going on today? Bojo here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my 2018 NHL Stanley Cup playoff predictions. So if you guys didn't see it already, I've already taken this bracket and thrown it into NHL 18 to see who EA Sports thinks is going to win this year's Stanley Cup. So if you guys haven't seen that video yet, make sure to go down into the description and check that video out. But without further ado, guys, let's get rolling with these predictions. Sorry for no face cam right now. I don't feel like moving it off of my TV onto my computer, so you just get to enjoy the calmness of my voice and my predictions. So once again, if you guys aren't aware, we're going to be doing this bracket challenge off of NHL.com. I'll leave a link down below if you guys want to set it up yourselves. Make sure to do it, and make sure to go on Twitter as well, because I know a bunch of other NHL guys. I know TDI is doing like a bracket challenge. You can win like a free NHL jersey, I think, off of his bracket challenge. No, a couple other guys are doing it as well. So scour the world of Twitter and find a bracket challenge and, you know, do a bracket for every single one. You might have a chance to win something pretty damn nice. So let's go over the matchups once again. In the West, we got the President's Trophy first seed Nashville Predators against the second wildcard team Colorado Avalanche, and the second seed Winnipeg Jets against the third seed Minnesota Wild. As we go down to the Pacific, we have the Vegas Golden Knights first seed against the first wildcard team Los Angeles Kings, and the second seed Anaheim Ducks against the San Jose Sharks. As we move over to the Eastern Conference, the first seed Tampa Bay Lightning against the second wildcard team New Jersey Devils, and then the second seed Boston Bruins against the third seed Toronto Maple Leafs. In the Metro Division, we got the first seed Washington Capitals against the first wildcard team Columbus Blue Jackets, and then the Battle of Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Penguins at number 2, and my Philadelphia Flyers at number 3. So one common theme I wanted to go over with you guys before we get into my first matchup between Nashville and Colorado is that home ice is going to be playing a major factor in this playoffs. Not only are a bunch of these matchups really hard to predict, and there's not really an outright favorite in most of these matchups. I would say there definitely is a favorite in a couple of them, but you wouldn't be surprised if some of these teams actually do end up upsetting other teams. Home ice advantage is going to be a very critical part of the playoffs this year, because if you look at all the teams, all 16 of these teams that are in the playoffs right now, the teams that do have home ice advantage in most of these series, there's some tough buildings to play in. I mean, Nashville's arena, whatever that is, the Bridgestone Arena, like, that's a tough place to play in. Winnipeg, they're going to be having the white out there in Winnipeg. MTS, that's going to be a crazy place to play in. Vegas, we already saw how good of a home team Vegas is this year, and playing inside a T-Mobile Arena during the playoffs can only get more and more insane. Anaheim and San Jose, you know, they're decently hard stadiums to play in arenas. Tampa Bay and Jersey, I'm not sure about those two guys all too much. Boston and Toronto, who knows what I mean, you guys saw the ACC last year. Who knows what the ACC this year is going to be like. Washington, Columbus, Washington, from first-hand experience from the series 2 years ago when the Flyers played them. That's not an easy place to play in. And then PPG Paints and obviously the Wells Fargo Center are going to be rocking for sure. So like I said, a bunch of these teams do have some crazy home ice advantage with their obviously, their home arena is going to be playing a huge part in the series. But let's go over to the first round matchup. In the West, we got the President's Trophy Nashville Predators against the first wildcard team, Colorado Avalanche. So just to take a look at the couple key factors here, I really wish they would list more key factors. I mean, you can't really grade a series off of like goals against, like their special teams. I'd like face-off winning percentage. Like, I feel like that's a stupid, you know, stat to put in here, to be perfectly honest. By NHL.com, point percentage really doesn't matter too much in the playoffs. I like the power play and penalty kill. I like the goals and goals against, but I don't know, throw some other stat in there, like their best players or something like that. But whatever the case, Nashville, the President's Trophy team, coming in hot, and Colorado not looking all too hot. Colorado has had one heck of a season, going completely 180 from last year to this year. Made the playoffs. Nathan MacKinnon looks like an absolute stud. Definite contender for the Hart Trophy for sure. But as I mentioned in my sim video, they're going to be hurting. Missing Eric Johnson on their back end definitely hurts, considering he's probably their best defenseman, arguably, on that team. And the fact that they're not going to have Semyon Varlamov, their best goaltender in net for the team. Obviously, Nashville has been looking very, very good. Their defensive core looks pretty nice. Their offense looks really, really good. A lot of pure goal scorers on that Nashville offense. And honestly, that 3.18 goals per game and the 2.49 goals against per game is looking pretty nice in these playoffs, to be perfectly honest. A really good power play, a really good penalty kill. Even though Colorado does have the power play and penalty kill percentage advantage, that's obviously because Nathan MacKinnon is a freak, Mikko Rantanen's a freak, Gabriel Landeskog is a freak. But if you look past that first line of Colorado, what really is scary about this Colorado lineup? I mean, that first line, as long as Nashville can make sure to not let that first line completely beat them in this series, I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for the Predators, to say the least. If Pekka Rinne turns out to be the Pekka Rinne from last year, excluding that series against Pittsburgh where he looked absolutely terrible, I think Nashville should have an easy time winning this series. I think that those two injuries, especially to their goaltender, if Varlamov was in there, I would probably still pick Nashville in the series, but I think it might be a little bit closer. But I think Colorado had a very, very nice run. MacKinnon helped this team get into the playoffs, but going up against Nashville is going to be a very, very tough task, which I really don't see them beating. Next up, we move to the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild. My goodness, do the Jets look fantastic this year. A lot of big-bodied forwards, a lot of guys that really know how to score. Their defense is obviously turning around. A little bit of nicks on the back end coming into the playoffs, but I think their back end should be good. Like I said, I think Toby Enstrom should be back. Josh Morrissey, Jacob Trouba had a couple injuries, but I think they're going to be ready to go. Offensively, Wheeler, Scheifele, Laine, a lot of pure goal scorers on that Winnipeg Jets team for sure. Hellebuyck, like I said, they finally found their goaltender. He looks great this season. All the key factor matchups go to Winnipeg's on this side. And honestly, I really do think that the Winnipeg Jets are going to win this series. Not because I think they're the better team. I think it's just because Minnesota is hurting a lot. Now, Minnesota is going to be missing Ryan Suter. Now, he's their best defenseman, but it's not because Ryan Suter is going to be out that they're going to be hurting. Ryan Suter logs minutes. Ryan Suter is always near the top of the league for time on the ice per game, and that was going to be no different if he was healthy going into the playoffs. So with Ryan Suter out, all the extra Minnesota defensemen now have to pick up his minutes. Like, who's going to step up and pick up those minutes for Ryan Suter? Like, is Matthew Dumba and Jonas Brodin going to have to like split that amazing amount of time that Ryan Suter spent out on the ice? I'm not sure. Can they be the ones to, you know, pick up that slack and follow in Ryan Suter's footsteps? I don't really know about that all too much. Granted, Minnesota does have pretty good guys on offense. Obviously, that Eric Staal signing, which I mentioned a while ago, was going to be one of, if not the best contract signings of the free agency from, what, 2 years ago? I think that was. I mentioned that was going to be one of the best signings during that free agency, and it's paying off in spades for this team right now. Eric Staal looks amazing this year. But, like I said, I think that back end of Minnesota is going to really take a hurt. You know, Minnesota can't seem to get past like the first and second round. They're like the Washington Capitals of the West, in a sense that they can't make it past the first or the second round. They're not going to match up with Chicago this year, so they don't have to worry about getting knocked out by them. But Winnipeg is no different, and honestly, I'm going to pick the Jets in that series just because of the fact that I think Minnesota is not going to be able to recover from the loss of Ryan Suter and the extra minutes that those defensemen that are going to have to pick up for Ryan Suter's minutes. I don't know if they're going to be able to handle it all too much. So I'm going with Winnipeg. I think they're the better team. They got the better depth defensively. They got the better depth offensively. And, you know, goaltender I kind of think is an even matchup with Hellebuyck if he stays consistent, and Dubnyk I think are very good matchup in net, but I still think Winnipeg's offense is far greater than Minnesota's. Now we go to the next series, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Los Angeles Kings. So let's start with Vegas. First off, who would have ever predicted these guys to be here? The Cinderella story of the NHL this year, without any question. Vegas A bunch of guys thrown together on one team, playing for a purpose, and that got them the first seed in the Pacific Division, and here they are in the playoffs. T-Mobile Arena, I'm pretty sure Vegas had one of, if not the best home records during the year, and it's going to be a very, very difficult place for teams to come in and play if Vegas continues to go past the first round and continues to go through the playoffs. It's going to be a very, very tough building for a team to win games in. On the other side, you have the LA Kings. The LA Kings become a completely different team in the playoffs. You have the veteran leadership out the wazoo with this team. You've got players on this team that have won not one but 2 Stanley Cups. You got like Drew Doughty, who's won 2, Carter's won 2, Kopitar's won 2, Jonathan Quick has won 2 Stanley Cups. This team completely changes forms in the playoffs, and Jonathan Quick becomes unreal in the playoffs. We've seen it before, and I think we might be able to see it again. Now, Vegas, like I said, they have players on that team that have been in the playoffs before. Other players will be making their first playoff appearance ever for the team. So it's going to be a mix of veteran leadership and, you know, noobs coming into the playoffs. While you look at LA, and you got pretty much just a almost full entire lineup of people that have been here before. They know what to do in order to get the job done. They have been set in this kind of underdog scenario again, and I honestly think that the veteran leadership of the Los Angeles Kings might be able to take this one all the way to the next round. Another key matchup is Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury has been known to be very, very shaky in the playoffs. I mean, just look at Pittsburgh for the last like 2 seasons. Marc-Andre Fleury saved Pittsburgh's season to get them into the playoffs, and then Matt Murray took it from there. We don't know what kind of Marc-Andre Fleury you're going to get in the playoffs, especially with that, you know, not great Vegas defensive core. So I think it's going to be a close series. Home ice is going to be really, really crucial in this series. I think the first team to lose a home game might be the one that takes the L in this series. But honestly, I just think that the Los Angeles Kings' experience in the playoffs is going to help them overcome Vegas. Like I said, Vegas has nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose at all in this series. The Kings have everything to lose, to be perfectly honest. An experienced playoff team like the Los Angeles Kings have everything to lose in this series, and I think that that's going to help fuel the fire underneath them and beat a team like Vegas that's going to be experiencing this for the first time. Nostalgia might be able to overcome some of their Vegas players, but I still think I'd like the LA Kings in this series just because they've been there before, they know how to get it done, and I think they will be able to get it done past Vegas. First team to lose a home game in this series, I think we'll lose the series. Alright, next up we got the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. Probably one of the most toughest matchups to pick in this series. However you look throughout their lineup, it's a very, very evenly matched team on offense, defense, and in net. You look in net, John Gibson has been on fire for the last month of the season. Coming into the playoffs, the Ducks are looking like a great team. San Jose, Martin Jones, not the greatest year, but once again, has had a very, very good year as well. The Anaheim Ducks are going to be without Cam Fowler. San Jose is going to be without Joe Thornton. A very key piece on Anaheim's defense, a very key piece on San Jose's offense. So, who do you like in this series? Do you like the offense of San Jose? With the addition of Evander Kane, their offenses looked fantastic, to say the least. But if you look at Anaheim's offense, Getzlaf, Corey Perry, Raquel, Silverberg, a lot of big-bodied forwards. Anaheim plays a very, very dirty style of game in the playoffs. You can ask any of those teams that have played Anaheim in the past. You know, Anaheim likes to get down, grind you out in these playoff games. It's such a tough matchup to choose. I mean, San Jose is the better special teams. Anaheim has the better goals against. It's a really tough series to pick. I don't really know who I would choose in this series, to be perfectly honest. It's a very, very tough series to pick. Joe Thornton, I believe, is going to be making a return to the series at some point, whether it's Game 2, whether it's Game 3. Hopefully he ends up playing in this playoffs, and that might be the leadership factor that San Jose needs in order to win this series. But I think without him in their lineup for those first couple of games, I think Anaheim might be able to take advantage of that a little bit. So I'm going to pick the Ducks, but that series is really, really difficult to choose. All right, next up, we move over to the Eastern Conference now, and we got the Tampa Bay Lightning against the New Jersey Devils. Okay, so some keys to this matchup. Tampa Bay, I think, without a doubt, is the clear-cut winner to come away with this series. They have the much better team on paper, and honestly, they have the much better team as it sits right now. They have the better offense. They have the better superstar players, Kucherov, Stamkos. They have a much better defense. Tampa has the best defense in the league right now, without any question. They have the best defense in the league and the best defensive depth in the playoffs right now. The key that Jersey is going to need in order to win this series is they need other players to step up. Taylor Hall basically pulled the Connor McDavid this year and basically got the New Jersey Devils to the playoffs all by himself. If Jersey wants to compete with Tampa Bay at all in this series, they need other players to step up. Taylor Hall cannot be the only person that's going to show up in the playoffs. This is going to be Taylor Hall's first ever playoff game and his first ever playoff series. They need other players to step up for him. Talking about those rookies, Nico Hischier, we're going to have to see what he's going to do in the playoffs. But Travis Zajac, he's a veteran player. He's going to be on Hall's line. Same thing with Palmieri. That's a very veteran lineup with those two guys. Hopefully, both Zajac and Palmieri might be able to help Hall get the job done and continue his massive Hart Trophy nomination season. But Tampa, although they've been a little bit lackadaisical coming into the playoffs, they haven't looked great. They started out absolutely amazing, but then have been on just a kind of slowly downward trend throughout the end of the season. I think that all turns around in the playoffs. They get themselves back on the right track, and I think they're absolutely going to show up and give Jersey a run for their money for sure. Tampa Bay's penalty kill doesn't look all too great though. 76.1% is not very good, so I think Tampa Bay definitely needs to stay disciplined a good bit. Jersey's penalty kill is very good, and we know Jersey is going to be a very annoying team to play in the playoffs because, you know, they get a lead, and what do? They sit back. The good old 1-4, the good old Hut strategy, if you guys will, the good old 1-4 setup that Jersey likes to play. So I think Tampa should win this series. They should. Kincaid has also been named the starter for the New Jersey Devils, and he's going to be on a very short leash. If this series goes completely south for the Devils, do not expect Keith Kincaid to stay in there for the long haul. I gave him maybe 1, maybe 2 games. If he doesn't win 2 of those games, then Schneider is 100% going to be going into the net for them. But I think Tampa Bay will definitely get their butts back in the gear and start playing like they did at the beginning of the season. They should win this. Okay, next up, Toronto and Boston. Hooey, Toronto, completely healthy. No injuries whatsoever. Boston, on the other hand, they're dealing with a good bit of injuries. On their back end, on their forward core, both Nashes look like they might be back, but who knows? Brandon Carlo is going to be out for them. So they're dealing with a couple bit of injuries. Boston could have had the Devils, but you know, they floundered that opportunity against Florida, and now they have to deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And honestly, I think they probably would have taken Jersey at this point rather than the Maple Leafs, because this Maple Leafs team has gotten the experience that they needed last year, and this year I think they're definitely going to make noise in the playoffs for sure. Toronto has had Boston's number throughout the entire season, if I do believe. I think the season series went to Toronto, and I honestly think Toronto is the much quicker team. Toronto is a very fast skating team. They're very young still, but like I said, that 6-game series with the Capitals really gave them the experience that they needed, and I think they're going to use that to their advantage in this series against Boston. I mean, it's been a couple years since, what, 2013, and that whole entire collapse happened. To say they want revenge is, I guess, an understatement, but, you know, that's definitely going to be on their minds. And I think Toronto overall has just looked better. Although Boston, like I said, at the end of the year, they completely turned it up. They had a chance to get that #1 seed, but they failed to do that. And honestly, I think Toronto, throughout the entire season, has looked very, very consistent. But the thing about Toronto is they really haven't had to play a very meaningful game in a while. Toronto was locked into that 3rd seed for months. They knew they were not going to get first, they knew they were not going to get second, and they knew they weren't going to get dropped into a wild card. So like, I guess for like the past month of hockey, Toronto has not had to play a meaningful game. They could have just sit back, relaxed, and just played hockey. Now they have to focus and play these meaningful games. We'll see if they're going to be able to do that. So, who do I pick for this series? Toronto or Boston? Toronto, I think, is the quicker team. Boston, I think, has the more offensive threats. Obviously, with Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand, you know he's going to be a pest in this series for 100%. I'm gonna go with Toronto. I really do. I like Toronto in this series. I really do think that Toronto matches up very, very well against the Boston Bruins. If it was Toronto versus Tampa, that's a different story, but I think that Toronto matches up well against the Boston Bruins. All right, next up we move to the Washington Capitals and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, they're going with Grubauer. Bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off. I believe if he doesn't win that game, they're going right to Holtby. I don't agree with the decision to go with Grubauer. I know Holtby was, you know, he was hurt for like almost near the back end of the season. He came back, he's won a couple games, but I don't support this decision to start Philip Grubauer at all. So I won't be surprised if Columbus comes away with a Game 1 victory over the Caps, and they will not hesitate to throw Braden Holtby in there as soon as they possibly can. Columbus doesn't have to worry about that issue. They're not going to throw Korpisalo in. Bobrovsky's their #1 goaltender for sure. Columbus's defense is very good. I'd say they get that advantage over the Caps defense, even though John Carlson has had a very, very good year without any question. And offense, it has to go to the Caps. I mean, Ovi's scored 47 goals this season. You have to give the offensive advantage to the Caps. Although Columbus does have those X factors, you know, like Panarin. He's had a lot of a playoff experience before, and obviously he doesn't need Patrick Kane in order to make offensive happen. But it's really going to be Columbus's depth that needs to show up. They have a lot of, you know, decently skilled players throughout their entire forward core. It's just going to be, can they step up there? Columbus still hasn't won a playoff series. They have never won a playoff series before, and who knows if they can step up and beat the Caps again. But as you guys know, Washington might have the 1st seed. Nobody cares what they did in the regular season, and I think that's a good thing. All the pressure this year for the playoffs is on Nashville. It's on Winnipeg. It's on Tampa Bay. Obviously, they still need to get past the 2nd round. Everybody's obviously going to be still bringing that back. They need to get past the 1st round. They need to get past the 2nd round. But I think that the fact that nobody's really putting all too much pressure on them this year, I think that's really going to be a good thing. They're putting pressure, at least you know in the internet world, in the media. They're putting pressure on other teams like Nashville and Tampa and Pittsburgh and other teams like that really need to step it up. It doesn't seem like the pressure is on Washington this year, so I really think that might pay off for them in that situation. I'm gonna go with Washington. I think they pull a better matchup here against Columbus, and you know, like I said, Columbus might steal Game 1. I will not be surprised if they steal Game 1 from them, because Grubauer could absolutely get shelled in that 1st game. But if they go to Braden Holtby, I think that the Capitals will turn to the Capitals of old, and they'll be able to shut down Columbus for the rest of the series. So I'm gonna go with Washington. Washington has, once again, they have the special teams advantage. They have a great power play. They have a great penalty kill. They know how to score goals. And if Ovi can be Ovi in the playoffs again, you know, Ovi has his streaks in the playoffs where he doesn't show up. And there'll be games where, like I said, there'll be games where he doesn't show up, and then there'll be games where he's the entire offense of the Caps. So it's just going to be what kind of Ovechkin you're going to get, and can Washington recover if they lose Game 1, which I honestly expect to happen. Oh boy, and then we get to my series, the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Philadelphia Flyers. How Philly made it here is beyond me. Last year we won 10 games in a row, missed the playoffs. This year we lose 10 games in a row, and we make the playoffs. Obviously, all the pressure is on Pittsburgh once again this year. They got 2 straight Stanley Cup victories, and they're looking to get number 3. This is the matchup I honestly didn't want. I wanted Philly versus Washington. I wanted Philly versus Columbus. I probably would have even taken Philly versus Tampa anyway. If we were up against Tampa, I would have said no chance that we were beating them. But against Pittsburgh, you never know. Now, if we look at my team, since obviously I know the best about the Flyers, they need to stay out of the damn box. Pittsburgh has the best power play in the league, 26.2%. It's the best power play in the league. Pittsburgh has also beaten the Flyers in the season series. They beat them every single game this season, with them scoring 5 goals in every single game. Which brings me back to that consistency point. Flyers need to be consistent in this series in order for them to take down Pittsburgh. Consistent on offense, consistent on defense, and especially consistent in goal. With our bonehead of a coach, who knows what he may pull in this series, and honestly, that favors Pittsburgh because they have a head coach who knows what he's doing, and then there's some days where I have no idea what that bonehead from North Dakota is doing behind our bench sometimes. Hacksaw needs to coach a good game in order for this team to win. Flyers have looked hot coming into this playoffs. I mean, they got points, I think, in their last 7 games coming into the playoffs. Claude Giroux, absolute monster of a year. John Couturier, Selke nomination of a year. And our rookies have looked good on both offense and defense. I think we do have the better defense than Pittsburgh, at least depth-wise. Pittsburgh, honestly, every single year, the first year they won the cup, they looked good. Last year, they were definitely banged up on defense like nobody's business, but they still won the cup. And then if you look at their defense this year, it's degrading little bit by little bit. And still, we don't know how Matt Murray is going to play consistently in the playoffs as well. Pittsburgh feels like they have the edge in the series, and they should, without 100%. They have the better, like the superstars match up well, like Giroux versus Crosby, like Couturier versus Malkin, Dvorak, and our rookies like Nolan Patrick, Travis Konechny. I think Travis Konechny being a pest in this series is really, really going to pay off. This is the first time we're going to see Travis Konechny in a playoff match, and we know how chirpy that little guy is going to be. He's basically like a mini Brad Marchand in some ways. So I think having a very chirpy Travis Konechny is going to be very, very good for the Flyers in this series. And honestly, like I said, the defense needs to be consistent. We know Provorov's going to log minutes. Ghost is going to hopefully be able to quarterback that power play if they end up getting power plays. It's going to be a chippy and grind series. I'm expecting this series to be like the Penguins and Flyers series of old. Like the regular season matchups, ever since that series, it's just been like the games really haven't meant anything. I think we're gonna get back to the grittiness between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia in this series. With that being said, I'm going to pick that. As much as I want this, I'm going to pick that. I have all the faith in my team. I'm going to be rooting for them 100%. But honestly, if I'm being realistic, they've had our number this year. I won't be surprised if they end up if this happens. I won't be surprised at all. I'll absolutely be joyed that they got past them and ended the streak in a sense. But I don't know. Something in the back of my head just says they've had our number this year and it might continue into the playoffs. Alright, so now that my first round matchups are done, let's move into the second round very, very briefly. Why do these teams have to play in the second round? It's not fair. Why? It's really not fair that these two teams may match up in the second round, Nashville and Winnipeg. It's really not fair at all. I don't even know who I would pick, dude, if they end up making it out of the series. Like, two really evenly matched teams. I think Winnipeg is more threatening up front just because their players, I think, are much bigger than Nashville. I think they got that size advantage on Nashville, but Nashville's defense is going to be way better than Winnipeg's defense. Even if Winnipeg does get all their defense back by the time the second round starts, if they make it that far, I still think Nashville's defense is going to be much, much better than Winnipeg. And they might, if any team is going to be able to shut down the Winnipeg Jets offense, it's going to be Nashville. So, who do I choose in that series? Nashville versus Winnipeg. Oh, I don't want to. I wish they were on opposite brackets. I wish they could meet here in the conference finals instead of round 2, because both two really good teams. Two teams that really, really deserve to go to the conference finals. I'm going to go with the Jets. I'm going to go with the Jets. I think they have that size advantage, man. They have a lot of much bigger players on their team, and I really think that's going to benefit them. And if we go down here, LA versus Anaheim. Let's go with... If it was LA versus San Jose, I would pick San Jose, but I think that's... I don't know, man. Kings are a scary team in the playoffs, dude. Kings are a scary team in the playoffs. I'm going to go with Anaheim. I'll take Anaheim in that series against the Kings. Don't know why, but I'll go with the Ducks. I think Cam Fowler should be back by then, so their defense core will definitely get a huge boost. And I think Gibson's going to continue to ride that heat. I think Anaheim might be able to beat LA. I don't even know what the season series between those two guys were during the season. If I have a chance, I'll look it up. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Ducks over the Kings in that match. So we'll have Winnipeg versus Anaheim in the conference finals. And then if these two teams end up matching up, if it was this, I would pick Winnipeg. If it's this, I'm still going to pick Winnipeg. I really do like the Winnipeg Jets' chances this year, without any question. The combination of like size, goal scoring, rookie contribution, and I think as long as their defense can hold it together, they have a very, as long as their defense and their goaltending have a good chance of holding it together, they're going to make the Stanley Cup Finals. Okay, next up, Toronto versus Tampa. That's one hell of a difficult series to pick. I think Toronto, I'm going to go with this. I think Toronto will be worn out from that Boston series. Boston's going to give them a hell of a series, and then they got to go from that right to Tampa. I feel like, yeah, if it was Tampa Bay and Toronto, I feel like Tampa would have gotten the advantage in that series, but if it was in round number 1, but I think Toronto is just going to be absolutely drained from Boston. Boston's going to take a lot out of this team, and after going through that, then they're going to have to deal with the Lightning next. It might just be too much for Toronto to handle. I think if Toronto has an easy road in the playoffs for the future, I 100% they can make it to the conference finals, but right now it's a very, very difficult road for them to make it through because they got to go through Boston and Tampa in order to get to the conference finals, and I don't see either of those situations happening. They might be able to get through one, but they're not going to get through both. So with that being said, I'm going to take Tampa in that series. Like I said, I think they're going to get their shit together and make it to the conference finals. I think people are expecting them to make the conference finals, and I don't think they will disappoint those people. They will make it there. And then we have an all too familiar series, Pittsburgh and Washington. I'm not doing that just because I'm a Flyers fan. They have to, man. I think if this matchup ends up happening, which it very, very well could, that's when the pressure comes. That's when they might feel the pressure again. Pittsburgh has been Washington's kryptonite, and you know what? They have to exercise their demons against this team. They have to do it. Washington, I think, has the better team going up against Pittsburgh in that series. They have to finally get over that hump. If they get over that hump, anything can happen. I think that team will get a lot of confidence if they can get past the second round and make it to the Cup Finals. But they have a Tampa Bay team waiting for them. Stamkos versus Ovechkin. That's my Stanley Cup Final. Winnipeg versus Tampa Bay. Washington, I think, can make it to the conference finals only if they will be able to beat Pittsburgh. If it's this, well, I still think they have a chance to beat them, even though Philly has had Washington's number throughout the regular season. Playoffs are a completely different story. But I'm going to go with that. And you know what? It honestly could be this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this, because if they can get past the second round, this team is going to get confidence out the wazoo. And a confident team in the playoffs is a scary team in the playoffs. And honestly, if they are able to do that, I see them having a good chance against Tampa, because they can match up very, very well against Tampa. But I just think Tampa is just so much of a very, very well-rounded team throughout their entire lineup: offense, defense, goaltending. They just have the whole package built for the playoffs. They have the team that is built for the playoffs. So that brings my Stanley Cup final between the Winnipeg Jets and the Tampa Bay Lightning, two very, very good teams. I think Winnipeg might run out here, so I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they're going to have a very, very good run to the finals, but I think they might fall just a little bit too short. I think, you know, all these games might finally catch up to the younger players on their back end. And, you know, having a young goaltender like Connor Hellebuyck, that might take a toll on them. But two young goaltenders going up against each other, I have predicted between Vasilevsky and Hellebuyck. Defensively, two, you know, decent teams. Winnipeg's defensive core is honestly a little bit younger. Tampa Bay has that incredible veteran leadership on defense, and then offensively, Kucherov and Stamkos, I think, bring it to a whole nother level. But you know, don't count out Wheeler, Scheifele, and Line without any question. But I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the Cup this year. Amount of goals scored in the Stanley Cup Finals, let's go with like 30. So that's like what? Roughly like 3 goals per game almost. If it goes 7, a little bit over 3 goals per game. So yeah, I'm going to go with 30 goals scored in the Stanley Cup Final there. And then I get to pick the games. Let's see, Nashville and Colorado. I really want to pick a sweep in this one, but I think McKinnon might break out in one game, so I'll go with that in 5. Winnipeg versus Minnesota, that one I'm going to pick a sweep in. I really do. I like Winnipeg in that series against Minnesota, so I'm going to take that in a sweep. The Kings over the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to take that in 6. Anaheim and San Jose, I don't know, so I'm going to go 7. I have no idea who's going to win that series. That one's too tough to call. Tampa Bay and Jersey, same thing. I think like Taylor Hall might have like a crazy breakout game, so he might be able to just will the Devils to a victory. Boston and Toronto, I think that goes 6. That might even go 7 to be perfectly honest, but I'll take the Leafs in 6. Washington Columbus, same thing. Whoops, same thing. 6. Philly Pittsburgh, I say. I'll give the Flyers. I'll give my Flyers some due diligence. I'll give them in 7. They'll break my heart in Game 7 as per usual, but that's what I'm gonna go with. There are my game matchups right there for the round series. And there it is. I've read it. Submit my bracket. Bracket failed to save. Why did I not name it? I don't think I named it. Hold on. Oops. Okay. Boom. Yes. Submit bracket. There we go. So it's saved. And there it is, boys. That is my predictions for the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. Tampa and Washington making it to the conference finals. Winnipeg and Anaheim. And the other end, Winnipeg and Tampa in the finals, with Tampa Bay going over in, I'd say like 6 games in that series. So let me know what you guys think down below. Once again, tell me why I'm wrong. I know there's plenty of reasons why I am wrong down there in the comments section. And let me know who you guys have winning the Stanley Cup this year as well. Also, let me know your favorite team and who you're going to be cheering for down below. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe as always. I'll see you guys next time.